G'day folks, Wren here, and it is time for June's TBRGate. So this is the first video that I am filming with my new shelves. So Max reorganized my red shelf and he did a bit of a rainbow here, but then this little section here is a bi flag. So we love that and we appreciate Max for all of this. Time for June's TBRGate. So I did want to mention that I am adding a new aspect to my TBR game. So I decided to add in these Science Saves the Day tokens. It's just Rodney and Zelenka. So every time I get a 5-star on my TBRGate, I have a science token. So I can use this token to swap any book in my TBRGate. So say for instance, I picked a particular book for a particular prompt, but I didn't get to that book during the month. But I did get to another book that would also fit that prompt. I can use the science token to swap those. So I have now completed that prompt because I did read a book. Does that make sense? It just gives me a little bit more freedom with my reading because I do tend to read a lot each month, even though I don't get to my TBR. And sometimes the books I read would have fit a particular prompt. So that's what we're going to use these for, and I can keep these. These can roll over each month until I get to the limit, which is 6, and then I just have to use them, you know. So, new addition to the game, trying to take it slightly easier on myself so people stop yelling at me to take care of myself. Before we get into June, let's go back and look at how May went. So May was actually a really good reading month, I think. I got at least one book in every star rating. So I don't know if you'd call that a good month, but it was an interesting month, that's for sure. For May's TBRGate, I had to read an LGBTQIA+ book, and for that I picked Beauty Queens. As of filming, I am halfway through that. Then I had to read an ebook, and I chose The Consumption of Magic for that, which is the 3rd in the Tales of Rainier series. I have started that, but I haven't finished, but I have started it, so that is also counting as complete. Then there was a hive ship on a new to you author, so I had to read 2 books for that. And for that I read Horror Hotel and episode 13. Now, Horror Hotel got 1 star. I will leave the link to a little rant video I did about that, so go watch that, it's a fun time. And then episode 13 I gave 4 stars. Then for mental health rep, I read The Midnight Library and I gave that 4 stars. 4.5 if we're being specific. It was like a singular point away from being a 5-star. But it came out as a 4.5. Then for dark cover, I read What Moves the Dead, 5 stars. New favourite of all time, I am obsessed. Then for magical abilities, I was to read Playing with Fire, which is the 2nd in the Skullduggery Pleasant series, and I read that and I gave it 4 stars. Then I had another hive ship on the competition prompt, and so for that I had to read Yu-Gi-Oh! Volume 3 and Iron Widow. So I've read Yu-Gi-Oh! Volume 3 and I gave it 3 stars, and I have started Iron Widow, and I'm pretty sure I will finish that by the end of the month. So technically, I completed May's TBRGate, which is amazing and like desperately needed to happen because I hadn't had a win in a long time. So I got that, which is awesome. And because I gave What Moves the Dead 5 stars, I officially have 1 Science Saves the Day token. At the time of filming, because I haven't finished reading them, there are potential for 2 more 5 stars. So I've like tentatively put 2 tokens on the board. But if, when I finish them, they're not 5 stars, I will just remove them from next month's tally. So I won't be cheating, but I'll just tentatively put them there because I'm hoping for 5 stars. So now on to June. there are so many readathons happening in June, and I'm going to be taking part in 3 of them. So the first one is Camp Seasonathon. For this, I decided to go with Melanie's prompts because out of the 3 hosts, she is the one that I watch more consistently, and all of these links for all of these readathons will be linked down below, so go check them out. Then we had the QueerLit Readathon, which happens twice a year, as well as 2 weekend editions, and this is the full month-long edition happening in June, and I'm so excited. This is one of my favourite readathons. It's all about queer fiction and it's great, and I will be giving my TBR for the QueerLit Readathon at the end of this video, so stick around for that. And then of course we have the readathon I am most excited about, which is Adventureathon, hosted by Kirsty from K-Beth Bookish. This is her first readathon and I'm so excited for it. It's gonna be amazing. You just create a character, pick a hero path that you want to take, and it's so cool, and I am the hunter path because hell yes, and I'm so excited for this. There are so many good prompts. There's like a cosplay competition and a scavenger hunt thing, and it's gonna be awesome. I highly recommend everyone go and sign up. It's great. But yes, so lots happening in June. I tried to really get my TBR down to as little books as possible, but I think at the end of the day, I'm still reading a little over 20 books. So, cool. And then something else that is happening in June is I am starting my Queer or Not book club. So if you haven't seen the announcement video for that, I will leave it linked down below. But I have started a queer book club called Queer or Not, in the vein of Queer or Not, Here We Come, you know. And for our June pick, we are reading Of the Wild by E. Wembiam? I still can't say that last name. But this sounds like such a fun book. It is about a shapeshifter who steals children from unloving families, raises the kids in the wild, and there is magic and something is maybe hurting the magic, and it just sounds like so much fun. And I'm really excited to start this book club and read a book with all these amazing people that have joined and just talk about queer books. So if you would like to join, there's a link down below to the announcement video and the Discord. So now on to June's TBRGate. Alright, I'm happy to report that I can take away some hive ships. So I can take off this one on Ekrumig because I read those 2 books, and I can take away the one on Ekjesus because I read those 2 books. So getting rid of 2 hive ships. And then I am tentatively going to give myself a ZPM. Now I have decided to do some Science Saves the Day tokens. So because I'm filming this a little bit early, I only know for sure that I have 1 5-star. There are some other books that I've started and not finished quite yet, but they have the potential to be 5 stars. So I'm gonna put 2 more Science Saves the Day tokens there. Right, and then we have the little puddle jumper, which last on Ekrumig. I think that's it. Now it is time for June TBRGate. Spin number 1. 4. Allura. So the first glyph I landed on was Allura, with the episode for that being the Hot Zone and the prompt for that being ebook. So the Hot Zone is definitely one of my favourite episodes. There is a quarantine in effect because there's been an outbreak of something in Atlantis and people start dying, and I really love the whole we're stuck and shenanigans are happening. The reason ebook was chosen for this is because of the type of outbreak that it is. For this, I'm so glad I got to put in our Queer or Not book club pick for June, so that is Of the Wild by E. Wembiam. By the end of June, I'm sure I'll be able to say that last name. I've already told you what this book is about. I'm so excited. It's a really short one. It's only like 130-ish pages, and there is a sexual rep, which is really great, and it's an indie author, and I'm so hyped to read this. I mean, look at that cover. Is that cover not just gorgeous? Okay, spin number 2. 12. Gilton. Next up, we landed on Gilton, with the episode for that being the Defiant one, and the prompt for that being Standalone. Again, Defiant one of my favourite episodes. It is, again, about being stranded and shenanigans happening. John and Rodney travel, 13 or 15 hours in a puddle jumper to go to this planet, moon, something, and there is a wraith ship there that they're going to investigate, and they're all alone and shenanigans happen. It's a fun time. I really love this episode. Because they are all alone, the prompt is standalone. So for this, I decided to pick Midwinter Bears by Blaine D. Arden. This is a random book I have on my Kindle. It's a really short novella. It is a bear shifter novella. It is queer. So one of our main characters uses e-air pronouns, which I think is awesome. I've never seen that in a book before. So I'm really excited to read this. And it's really just like a holiday romance. Like, there's honestly no synopsis. It's just a bear shifter holiday romance. Spin number 3. 1. So that is a chevron. So that means a chevron card. Okay. Again. Janice. Not a fan, but I can potentially make this work. Put Janice over there. So next up I landed on a chevron, and the character card I got for this was Janice. Janice is an ancient, so some of the prompts kind of reflect that. So the 3 choices I had for him were missing in action, a mystery or thriller, here first, an indigenous author, or older than dirt, a classic. So for this I decided to go with the mystery thriller prompt because I kind of realized that there's like a month until my birthday where I'll be turning 30, and I had this list of 30 before 30 and I'm not doing great, so I need to put some books in here that will get me closer to that goal. So because of that list, I have chosen The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. This is a very short one, so I'll actually potentially be able to get to it, but one of my goals for the 30 before 30 was to read a Gillian Flynn book. I would have preferred to read Gone Girl, but I'm running out of time, so we'll go with The Grown Up. This is something about a fake psychic, which is also interesting. And she meets someone who lives in a very haunted house, and maybe her fake psychicness isn't so fake, and maybe there are some actual things happening here. I am really excited to read this. It's short, it's kind of ghostly and paranormal. I'm keen for it. It's 67 pages. That's great. I needed a short book this month. I really did. Next spin. 2. Abrin. So next up I landed on Abrin, with the episode for that being Phantoms and the prompt for that being Mental Health Rep. Phantoms is a really fun episode, but in Phantoms the team stumble across a device created by the Wraith that kind of alters their perception of things. So they start hallucinating some things and it's a really wild time. So hence the mental health rep, because of hallucinations, and I stretch some of these prompts, okay? And I'm also stretching this book because I don't know if there's mental health rep, but because everyone says it's devastating, I'm just going to assume something sad happens and I might need some help mentally afterwards. Who knows? But the book I picked for this was A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Again, this is on my 30 before 30, so I'm really trying to get some books read. I don't know what this is about. There's a monster at Connor's window. It's not the one from his nightmare, but it wants the most dangerous thing of all from Connor. It wants the truth. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna be a mess after this, I think. I really do want to read it. I really need to read more of Patrick Ness. I have so many of his books on my shelf, and I'm like, I should just read them. So I'm going to read this, and everyone, like, send help. Alright, next spin. 4. I get a free space. Woo! And then I landed on the free space. I'm not sure I've ever landed on the free space, so I'm so happy about that. But I was also like, what the hell am I going to pick for a free space? So what I decided to do for the free space was to pick one of the group books for the QueerLit Readathon. This time there are 2 options for the group book. I think one of them was All the Boys Aren't Blue. I have read that, but the other one was Fina by Nino Kipri. So I have wanted to read this for ages. Again, it's a short book. It sounds awesome. I think this was also kind of like a IKEA-esque story. Yeah, so Finna is a rambunctious, touching story that blends all the horrors the multiverse has to offer with the everyday awfulness of low-wage work. It explores queer relationships and queer feelings, capitalism and accountability, labour and love, all with a bouncing sense of humour and a commitment to the strange. When an elderly customer at a big box furniture store slips through a portal to another dimension, it's up to 2 minimum wage employees to track her across the multiverse and protect their company's bottom line. Like, yeah, it sounds fun. IKEA, but multiverse. Alright, next spin. 1. And that's another chevron. Well, you can't really see, but there's a chevron up there. So, another character card. Oberoth. Okay, again, not a fave, but I could make it something work. So then I landed on another chevron, because obviously this was just going way too well for me. And the character card I got for that was Oberoth. So Oberoth is a replicator pretending to be an ancient. It's an interesting time. So the 3 prompts for him were Stickler for the Rules, a science-based non-fiction, Talking Tech, which is an audiobook, and then another entitled White Guy, so a male author. So for this, I technically am combining the last 2, a male author and an audiobook, and for this I'm going to be reading The Faceless Ones by Derek Landy. So this is the 3rd book in the Skullduggery Pleasant series. Max has kind of like bullied me into reading these because they're his favourite series, but like I am enjoying them quite a lot. They are a really fun series. It's kind of hard to describe, but this young girl inherits her uncle's estate. At the reading of the will, one of her uncle's friends comes and pays respect. Turns out this is Skullduggery Pleasant and he's a skeleton, and she is then kind of dragged into this world of magic and evil beings that want things. Really, it's just about this young girl and Skullduggery becoming detectives, and they solve all the crimes together. They have the snarkiest relationship, and I really love their banter constantly. It's great. Alright, next spin. 12. Danami. Next up, I landed on Danami, with the episode for that being Whispers, and the prompt being female dominant. I swear I get this prompt all the time as well, because Whispers, yeah, one of my favourite episodes because we have an all-female Stargate team, and they are such badasses. And also just the episode in general is creepy, which I love. So female dominant, I decided to go with Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. This is a female author, and it is a sapphic romance. It's also historical, and she's chunky, and the writing is small. See, this is making up for all of those short books that I've put on my TBR. But this is about a group of thieves in London 1862 and potentially found family. Like I said, it's sapphic. I don't really know much about this, but I am reading this for a project I am doing. You know, I might just try and find an alternative to this because it's so large, it's historical, and it's tiny writing. See, how many pages was it? Oh, cool, 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 cool. Love this for me. Oh, we keep going? Okay. 548. Alright, next spin. 13. I've already landed on Allura, so I just have to spin again. 1. Aldeni. So the next glyph I landed on was Aldeni, and the episode for that is The Long Goodbye, with the prompt being fake dating. Now I'm pretty sure I've never landed on this, so that's fun. But The Long Goodbye is a interesting episode where Elizabeth and John are momentarily taken over by other beings' consciousnesses. the way they get John and Elizabeth to agree to this is because they pretend that they are in a relationship. And they're like, oh, one last goodbye for my spouse. So they agree to do this, and then it turns out, no, they're not in a relationship. They are enemies fighting on two different sides of a war. It's very, very fun, and then it's like a cat and mouse game all over Atlantis. It's very fun. What I decided to do for this is to do a reread of one of my favorite books that I've been wanting to reread for a while, and that is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. Honestly, this is one of the first books where I was like, oh my god, I love this so much. It was so good, so much fun. I really, really loved it. And this kind of like solidified my absolute love of the fake dating trope. Now, I have read this, I've read the whole series, it's great. I really want Helen Hoang to write more books, but that's okay. And in this we have Stella, who is autistic, but in this she uses the term Asperger's, and she wants to start a relationship with someone, but she doesn't know how, so she hires a male escort to help her learn how to be in a relationship. And I love that. And then, you know, obviously her and her male escort fall for each other, and it's great and beautiful, and I love it so much. I read this before I figured out that I was autistic, so I couldn't really speak to the representation in this. By the time I read the third book, I understood, and reading that third book destroyed me. And Amy keeps talking about how she didn't like the representation in here, so I'm intrigued now that I know I'm autistic and I know more about autism if I'm gonna like this. But yeah, I'm gonna be rereading this. Let's hope it goes well. And what will hopefully be the last spin. 6. Zeo. And lastly, I landed on Zeo, with the episode for that being The Intruder and the prompt being 5-star prediction. The Intruder is definitely, again, a favourite episode, so hence the 5-star prediction. When I'm doing rewatches, I always hang out for this episode. Like I keep saying, it's my favourite thing where people are stuck and shenanigans happen. So team is on the Daedalus flying back to Earth, but there's some kind of computer bug happening and shenanigans happen. But the book I decided to choose for this is Kogitsune by Xia Lake. I've probably butchered that, I'm so sorry. But this is a book that I picked for Readathon. So it features a kitsune, which is a creature from Japanese myth, but this is also a queer relationship. And also, like, the cover looks great. So it's a coming of age story set in medieval Japan. A friendship between a young fox god and his human childhood friend is built on deception, but grows stronger and purer as it's driven by common purpose. Gonna stop that there, but it sounds really good. It's also a very short book. I'm just intrigued to pick this up and see what it's all about. So that was my TBRGate for June, and now we're going to go into my QueerLit Readathon TBR. So for the QueerLit Readathon, we always have a bingo board, and I always kind of like to fill out all of the prompts and just see what I get to during the month. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to give you the book I'm going to read and then all of the prompts that it will fit. The first book is Rainbow Boys by Alex Sanchez. This is again on my 30 before 30, and it is also part of the same project that Fingersmith is from. Put your guesses down below about what this project could be. But this book was one of the first books I saw that was queer, and like very kind of openly queer. So I think it's just about 3 teen queer boys finding themselves. I'm not really sure. It's kind of a bit of a classic in the queer community, so I'm gonna read it. So this fits for banned book because this was banned in Texas, I believe. I did do some research to see if it was banned. It was banned in like 2 or 3 states in America. Then this also fits for host rec because I'm pretty sure one of the hosts has recommended this before. It might have been in one of Kathy's alphabet videos, maybe might have been in a previous QueerLit Readathon recommendation, could also be on the spreadsheet. I'm not sure, but one of them has recommended it before. Next up we have the group read, which is Finna. I've already told you about this one, and that's all this one fits for. So next up I have Black Trans Fairy Tales by S.T. Lin. This is a collection of 3 trans fairy tale stories. This is a collection of 3 fairy tales, and I was a part of the Kickstarter to get this published in paperback, so I'm really looking forward to reading these. And I do also have the audiobooks for all 3 because they were provided with the Kickstarter. So Ella's stepmother insists she's a boy, but the princess sees her for the woman she is. When Ella is dumped at the edge of the kingdom, she finds strength in herself to create a new life. So that's the Cinderella one. Erica's father sends her across the ocean to the new world, only for a suspicious deckhand to throw her overboard mid-journey. With help from Princess Ariel and a little bit of magic, Erica learns how to live and love under the sea without her voice. So that's obviously the Ariel one. And Belle has been harassed by Gaston for years and escapes into her books and the abandoned castle in the woods to get away. It turns out the castle isn't abandoned, and the guardian who lives there thinks Belle deserves the whole world. That's cute. That's obviously the Beauty and the Beast story. So I'm really looking forward to these, and just like black trans women being amazing. We love to see it. So I've put this in for trans joy because from what I can tell, these all end with happily ever after. Next up, we have Through Thick and Thin by Wren, an autobiography. Now, oh my gosh, the chokehold that Wren had on me when I was in like pre-teen and teen, like it was all over the TV, and it was amazing. He was on so many shows, like style shows and some like fitnessy shows because of what he went through in his life. I don't know, but it was amazing, and I found this at an op shop and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy that. So I bought it, and now it's time to read it. This fits the memoir prompt, and I'm also putting it in for the like choose your own prompt because this is also part of that project that I have been hinting at. Then for an NBMC or author, I chose Midwinter Bears, which I've already talked about because one of the main characters uses air pronouns. Then I have Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World by Benjamin Alire Sands. This is the second in the Ari and Dante universe whatever series. The first book, it was okay. I think I gave it 3 stars, but I wasn't super in love with it. And then heard a second one was coming out and I was like, well, I'll get this just so I can complete a series. So that's basically the only reason that I have it. So this I have chosen for intersectional because we have 2 queer main characters who are Hispanic, and this also fits for continued because it is continuing a series. And then for the folklore prompt, I'm going to use the Queer or Not pick for June, which is Of the Wild, because they're like fae, and fae is folklore-ish, and there have definitely been stories of fae-like creatures stealing children, so that works for me for folklore. Then for the short stories prompt, I'm going to choose Kogitsune because it is a very short story. And then lastly for queer friends, I'm going to choose this absolute beauty, which is In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune, my favourite author. I am so excited to have this in my hands. And like, yep, those are some gorgeous sprayed edges. Yes, they are. And also have signed. I love it. I am so excited to read this. Like, I don't even care what it's about, but apparently there are robots. And it's inspired by Pinocchio and the Swiss Family Robinson. Here, even a family assembled from spare parts might become whole. TJ Klune's gonna do that thing where he rips out my heart, stomps on it, puts it back into my chest, and then like gives me life again. Kind of what he does, and you know what, I'm here for it. This is a lot of books. This is actually heavy. I'm putting this down. But yeah, that's a whole lot of books for June, and I still have a TBR to come. Awesome. Loving this for me just so much. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.